Hey, aloha Pete. What a wonderful, wonderful, deep, profoundly moving, contemplative, inspiring, uplifting video you and your friend made. I really, really enjoyed it. I've just played it a couple times as I was cleaning my new condo here, getting ready to go to the beach. And your question is really, really well taken. Why don't we wake up? Especially those of us who pride ourselves on believing in a on a conceptual level that we have the truth, and that we have the wisdom, and that we have the information, and that we have the knowledge. So why don't we wake up and truly begin to live as the divine rays, rays. I see like God coming down like a ray of light, and each one of us is like in that spotlight, at the very end of the spotlight, on the stage of life, on the stage of our own personal life, running around like crazy saying, oh my God, there's no light. And yet we are the projection, an extension of the divine, living, loving light. That was my experience. That was my epiphany. That was my miracle that woke me up in 1979. And it really was an awakening experience. It was visceral. It was experiential. And so I believe, in answer to your question, that waking up, while we can use the brain's knowledge, and we can use the mind's accruing of more and more words of truth and more strategies of calming the mind, of teaching the mind, of refocusing the mind towards truth and towards light. Ultimately, I'm beginning to guess, and this is only a guess, it seems as if the final awakening is a gift of grace, a gift from the cosmic superself, the divine supreme intelligence of the universe, that finally, once and for all, does an absolute and total cleansing, and we find that we are not the human personas that we thought we were at all. We find that we are, in fact, what the Course in Miracles calls divine sons of God, all equal, all projections of what are referred to as the great rays of God. Each and every one of us is an aspect of one of those rays, as God rays out his infinite ideas of selfhood. Thomas Trord says it so well when he says, the universe is the self-contemplation of the divine self. In the latest issue of What is Enlightenment magazine, the cosmologists who wrote a wonderful article in there are now agreeing that as they see and observe the universe closer through all these telescopes and all these instruments, they're realizing that the universe itself seems to be awakening. Eckhart Tolle, I love the first episode in the Oprah series with Eckhart Tolle. They talk a lot about how the vegetable kingdom already seems to be ahead of the human kingdom in its awakening, by virtue of the fact that it is flowering, that the flowers that are blooming on the branches of the great trees in the vegetable kingdom are actually representations of these ideas of beauty that are flowering in God's mind. And there is no separation between the flowering of the beautiful idea in God's mind and the flowering here in the three-dimensional earth plane. Flowers do not have a conscious mind that puts up a lot of conceptual barriers, that a flower would never say, oh, I'm not worthy of being an extension or projection of God's idea. A flower would never say, oh, poor me, I'm just a poor little flower, unimportant in the scheme of things. A flower senses, as do trees, as do clouds, as does the ocean, its oneness with the ideation, the extension of the ideation out of the supreme creative intelligence that we call God, that we used to call God. And so when you say, why don't we wake up? That is a wonderful, wonderful question to be with. Why don't we wake up? How can we wake up? Are we able to wake up by choice of will? Or are we to somehow surrender our own ego demands into a higher evolving plan, and just know that in the moment when we are to be, when we're to take our next quantum leap, our next quantum step, in that moment, that the Supreme Mind will in fact lift this mind to a higher frequency level, and we will ascend to a higher beingness, and we will no longer be identified with the reptilian flight and fright area of the lower brain, which basically perhaps is really what we need to master. And maybe that's why the masters called themselves masters, because I notice the more and more awake I become here in beautiful, beautiful Hawaii, that it is usually a fight or flight response reaction that puts me back to sleep. I seem to be having more and more periods of beingness where I am truly in a oneness of beingness, and I sense the perfection, the perfect harmonization, the perfect orchestration of everything at work in this spherical universe that surrounds us so lovingly. And so amazingly, I have periods where I feel that I'm awake, and then a fear thought or a desire to run away or to reject or push away comes up from my lower brain and percolates up like a habit. I was very interested. I saw how deeply ingrained our habitual thoughts are just this week when I moved up here to the 16th floor, this beautiful, beautiful view condo. But every time I got in the elevator, my finger automatically pressed the 15th floor. And even though I would tell myself, I am now going to remember to press the 16th floor, I just said it, the habitual neuronal pathways had already been set up to go ahead and press the 15th floor. So that's what we need to wake up from. Our old habitual thought pathways, those neuronal pathways, in order to lift our frequency vibration and begin to access the downloading from the supreme intelligence, the cosmic super self, what I call in my book, the supreme divine mind, and as you say so beautifully, to access the love that is the motivational force behind all creation. For if there were no love for beauty, for creation, for life, we would not exist. So congratulations on a wonderful lesson, Pete, that really is inspiring those of us who are watching it. And aloha.